Next pedal I want to discuss is the compressor. The compressor is one of the really kind of trickiest pedals to use. I've had a number of them, and through my guitar playing years, I've sold them and all sorts of things like that, because I've never really understood how they work. So I wouldn't put it on the top of your list as a pedal, but once you kind of get into pedal geeking out and tweaking your tones, compressors are actually pretty cool and very useful, but they are a little tricky. Okay, what a compressor does, it's often called compressor limiters. What they would do is, there's probably a compressor on my microphone right now. What it does is it levels out your signal. So if I'm going to play, the compressor part will push up your lower notes volume, right? So if you play something soft, it's going to push it up the volume-wise. A limiter will stop the notes from getting too loud, and it'll compress them down. So a compressor limiter is actually going to squash your signal. So when you hear people talking about compressors and limiters, they're saying like, oh, it's a really squashed sound or squished or something like that, or it's really compressed, meaning it's pushing your volume down, it's stopping the volume from going too high, and it's stopping the volume from getting too low. Anytime you hear almost anybody speaking on a microphone, in a professional situation, on the radio, all the DJs, there's a compressor on their voice. The reason why is if I go like this, that can distort, that can send your signal so high that it's going to distort. So we don't necessarily have that problem for guitar, but the effect can be really cool on a guitar if we want. So the ways that guitar players use compressors is classically on funk things to get that sort of snappy sort of funk sound, where they're very useful. And the compressor I'm going to use in a minute is the MXR Dynacomp, which is probably one of the more famous compressors, is that it's going to boost my sustain. And so let me talk about these knobs here. Output is just the volume of your compressor. Sensitivity is actually the amount of compression ratio. This can get really nerdy, so I'm not going to go quite deep into that. But basically what this does, it gives you more of the effect. It actually squashes your signal more, like I said. So the compressor is best when heard. Okay, so clean guitar signal. Now I'm going to really kind of compress it just to kind of hear it. And you get that funk guitar sound I was talking about. Now it's on. Now I'm going to turn that off, play the same line. Okay, the signal is more open now with the compressor on. That kind of notes kind of go pop, pop, pop. They kind of compress, so they don't get too much louder. It gives this kind of nice pop to the notes. Now, I'm going to play a chord with no compressor. Now, I'm going to kick on the compressor. You can hear how much longer it's going to sustain. Now here, it kind of went, and now it's opening up. Seems to be getting louder, right, as it fades out. That is the limiter coming in. So what happened was, I'll do it again. So now, it's starting to kind of get a little louder. What happened when I strummed the chord, the compressor stopped it from being too loud, and as the note volume fades out, it starts to bring up the lower end of it. So as it stopped from getting too loud, and now it's trying to keep that same volume throughout the whole thing. So that's what a compressor can do for you in an extreme case. Compressors are weird in the sense that, well, how do I use that as a guitar player? Well, you can get that, like I said, that funky guitar sound. That's pretty cool, just that snappy sound from a compressor. Other things, like like a lead sound, it's really great if you find that kind of sweet spot for it. Someone like David Gilmour would use it a lot. Another Brick in the Wall is a perfect example. That sound. Of course, he had more effects on it than that, but you're hearing how the notes have a pop to them. So they really last, especially the note, the duration of your clean sound. Bring back that sensitivity a little bit, crank up the volume. Another common way you can use a compressor that I really like is almost like a boost, a gain stage section into some overdrive. And what that'll do is it can really smooth out your lead tone give you a lot more sustain, so you can get those really cool long sustain notes. And it kind of works in a bit of a different way. We're trying to emulate the compression, the natural compression that a tube amp gets when you crank it. So what happens is the tubes are really working on your behalf, right? And they're making you have a lot more sustain. That's why when you play a tube amp at a really low volume, sometimes it just doesn't feel good because the tubes aren't naturally compressing. And when you use a compressor box, you can sort of emulate that sound. So you can use it as a boost situation too. But the most dramatic situation, like I said, is going to be that kind of cool funk guitar sound. It's really nice on a clean sound. I want those notes to ring out longer. You can use it in a way like, say, David Gilmour does in Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, as a little bit of a boost and sustain addition to your lead playing. So, like I said, it's a bit tricky, that pedal. You have to kind of mess around with it. But second level ninja stuff, right? It's not like an overdrive, which makes a lot more sense right off the bat. Compressor takes a little more getting used to.